InterMat's here at American University with new head coach Jason Borrelli. Thanks for having us in.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Excited.
Yeah, coach. So just give us a little bit about where you're at as far as I know Washington D.C. You're coming from California. These places have been a little difficult about opening up. So I don't know where you are as far as being able to work with the team and moving in here and stuff like that.
Sure. Well, yeah, we're settled. So my wife and I moved across the country. We bought a house in Maryland. So I'm about a half hour away from work, give or take a few minutes depending on traffic. But it's been great. We kind of got settled in uh, let's see, I guess early June. So I've been here a solid month, and things have been going great. We are we're still have some restrictions in terms of how we can train and what we can have happening in the facilities and using the room. But our current rostered student athletes, if they're here, can use the facilities. Up to 20 guys in the wrestling room. They still have to test. So they're testing twice a week because of the contact, and that's regardless of if they've had the vaccine. So just still trying to be cautious and do our part to stay safe and keep the community safe. So, but we've had all the returners that are here, which we have a small group of returners, only 16, and of those 16, 15 of them are here this summer, and so they've been in the room 3 days a week on the mats, doing open room stuff, getting some instruction per request by them, helping them out and getting to know them, and it's been great. Matter of fact, earlier this morning at 8, we had 15 guys in there getting after it, and so it was a lively bunch, and it's been great.
And just before we sat down, maybe an hour ago, news broke about a new addition, a familiar face for you. Talk about your latest addition to the staff.
Yeah, so excited to have Alex join me here. I had 8 years with him at Stanford, two different stints, one early in my career and then one most recently, the last 3 or so years. But Alex is just an awesome human. Um, Great wrestling coach, of course. His track record proves it. He was a head coach at Penn and has coached a plethora of really successful athletes and helped develop them. And so just a great wrestling coach. But the bigger thing for me is he's an amazing person. Just the highest integrity. His kind of his beliefs on how to run a program and how to do things the right way are in line with mine, and so I'm excited about that and excited to get him and his wife Amy, and then they have 3 young kids. They have twins and then another young boy. So they're getting ready to go through what we just went through. Moving 3 young kids across the country, about as far as you can go, is a tough undertaking. But I know he'll do it, and we're just excited to get him out here in a few weeks to kind of get going. So.
Mhm. All right, so we're going to look back a little bit. Stanford this past year, just we've heard some of the stories. What were some of the adversity that your guys faced? As far as not the dropping the program facet, but as far as COVID and restrictions, and it's just amazing that you had the NCAA tournament you did with that type of situation.
Well, thanks. Yeah. So, everyone had their challenges, right? But what made our situation so unique was that we were doing it. We were in a pandemic, of course. Everyone was experiencing that and the challenges that come with that, and isolation and all that. Just how it affects you mentally. But we're doing it during a time when there's so much uncertainty about the future for these guys. They dropped our program, and that presents a whole different challenge mentally. Do you want there's no guarantees that there's going to be an NCAA tournament. There's no guarantees there's going to be a future for them at Stanford, and so and there's no guarantees that we couldn't get shut down at any time from training, which we ended up experiencing. But so keeping those guys engaged mentally and watching them push through the way they did was really remarkable and something I'm really proud of. Not only because I know our coaching staff played a part, but just like so inspired by how our guys were able to stay focused and stay positive through everything they faced. But if you specifically some of the things, we were in a really tough county. So our county had some of the toughest restrictions across the country. I don't want to bore you with the details, but obviously at one point, once we finally were given the green light to return, we moved into a hotel first. They had to do a 5-day quarantine. Then we were able to come on campus, and we had to live together on campus. Now, in small groups. So we were able to live in suites of 6. So 6 individuals were in a suite. They had their own room and they shared a common area. And we had 4 of those. And so we had 24 guys. We had the ability to have 24 guys on campus. But the only way we were able to start practicing was if they were living all together. And so they were, kind of isolated amongst just our team, but that also entailed really significant testing. So our testing cadence at Stanford was we tested every single day that we had contact plus 3 other times. So if we were practicing 5 days a week with wrestling practice, we had to test those 5, but we also had to test 3 additional tests, PCR tests all week. So we were as many as 9 times a week testing, and as few as 7, because there were maybe days where we only did 4 contact practices, but we still had those 4 tests plus 3 others. So anywhere from 7 to 9 tests a week, and that started in early November and never stopped all the way up through the NCAA tournament. So, but on top of that, our county shut down indoor activities, so we had to practice outside. We practiced from late November all the way up until through the Pac-12 tournament. We practiced outside, and yes, we have great weather, but in the winter there, it's at night when the sun goes down or when we're having to practice because guys have classes. I mean, it's 50 degrees, and that's a chilly outdoor practice for a wrestler. There's also rain. You never knew when the rain was going to come and how to navigate that, and having to put mats under an awning, and it was a lot, and our guys were great about it. And the big thing is we just didn't want to complain about it, and we kind of had this idea of like whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. If the ultimate goal was to wrestle and have an opportunity to wrestle in the postseason, we would do whatever it takes, and we really bought into that early on. And so, as we kept reminding the guys of that, it helped during the tough times. But there were other challenges. We weren't able to compete at home. We had to create a 15-day road trip. We were given 15 days to go on the road and get all the competition in that we needed within reason to get our guys eligible for the postseason. And we did that, and lived in a hotel away from home. And but the guys took it great, and it worked out well for a few guys. We had some guys that did really well at the national tournament, and really happy for them. And overall, the most challenging year definitely that I've ever experienced, but probably the most rewarding year I've ever gone through.
Yeah, I can understand that, and I'm sure it has to be a bittersweet feeling. Shane Griffith winning the national title. You're first as a coach. Stanford only had 1 previous before him. Those things don't happen every day, but knowing that, and then at the same time having the uncertainty of what's going on, even though he just won.
Yeah, I would say not bittersweet. It was awesome.
Okay,
it was great. I mean, it's why you do it, right? It's what you hope and you think about all the time is you get into coaching, you want to have an impact on kids' lives, but you also are competitive, and you would like to see the guys you coach and the guys that you spend a lot of time with do well. So that was a very awesome moment. It's super inspiring. And I remember turning to Ray Blake, and we just kind of looked at each other, and we were just like, man, take this in, because we'd been there before, right? We coached Nick Stegi in the finals, and it didn't work out in our favor. You never know when you're going to get back. And so I do remember going up on the stage, and into that moment, I was like, I'm just going to enjoy this. Shane's ready. He's prepared. He's very confident. He's relaxed. Just let him wrestle, and let's enjoy the moment. It may be the last match ever wrestled for Stanford Wrestling. And that was the other thing that Ray and I talked about, after that match, was kind of looked at each other and thought, this is the last match in Stanford Wrestling's history. Pretty fitting that, we go out with a national champion. Like, that's awesome. And so it was a great moment, and to see the wrestling community rally and start chanting for us, and the TV networks, what they did to kind of promote our cause and help us. I mean, it was an awesome time, and just glad to be a part of it.
And as far as when the coaching, change happened at Stanford, we saw something from Ray basically saying that he kind of saw the writing on the wall and knew that the coaching staff wouldn't be back if it was saved. Is that something that you had noticed as well and kind of led you to?
Well, I had it wasn't what led me to explore this option. I mean, this option one, there was no certainty of what was going to happen at Stanford. Although I felt I felt good. I mean, you ask anyone involved in that, our alumni and coaching staff and the guys, like I really felt like we'd get the program reinstated. But of course, not being the person that makes that decision, it would have been foolish of me to not explore other options. And started talking to American and was intrigued. The location makes sense for me and my family. My wife is in social work and she's a therapist, and there's just a lot of opportunities for that in this area. And we want to raise our kids in a diverse area, a place that they can see people from all over. And this is a very diverse just part of the country. So there's a lot of things that made sense from a family perspective, but from a coaching perspective, you have an AD that's a wrestler. You've got a fully funded program on the East Coast, close to a lot of the powerhouse states. I mean, it's just an education that's second to none, right? You've got one of the top 4-year degrees in the country, and there was a lot of things that intrigued me, and I would say so. I started listening, and one thing led to another, and I thought it was the right opportunity for me. And but it didn't mean I didn't think that the program was going to be saved. And matter of fact, the biggest thing that I was concerned with when I decided to take the job is I didn't want people to view it as to lose any steam or any of the momentum behind the effort of saving the program, because that remained the number one priority. So, but it just was right. It was right for me and my family, and we're excited about it.
All right. And as far as, American, this is a program that kind of had their share of adversity last year, just like everybody else, you said, with, COVID restrictions. And, they had a lot of difficulty, even getting on the mat, didn't wrestle until the EIWA tournament, went through, a coaching shift mid-season. So I imagine these guys that you have in the room now, they're probably itching to, get at it and, get going.
They are. Yeah, you're right. Everyone has their challenges, and that's kind of what I meant at the beginning. Is we faced some crazy challenges, but these guys here had their challenges. You're right. They didn't get a regular season. I think they got paused numerous times and couldn't train as a team at all. They had to train more in like small groups. So they had significant challenges, and then they only sent 3 guys to the EIWAs, to even be eligible for postseason. So. Lost their coach right in the middle of the year or start of the year, I think mid or early January. And that probably was devastating to many of them too. So yeah, they faced a lot. I felt that when I got hired, it felt like they were just so hungry for like direction and like trying to bring them back together and to heal those wounds, because they had all experienced so much. And I think that's part of the reason why they've been so committed and so dedicated, and so many are here this summer, is because they miss wrestling. They're wrestlers and they love wrestling and they love trying to get better. And they all decided, well, we missed the whole season, we sure as heck better stay here in the summer. So and they've been great. Their attitudes have been awesome, and I've been very appreciative of that, because it's made my transition a lot easier.
And as far as programs go, recruiting is just kind of the lifeblood of college wrestling right now. And when you're at Stanford, you kind of have to recruit a certain type of athlete. It's not the same as most other schools. I imagine your experience, Alex's experience recruiting those athletes at Stanford, you're almost recruiting pretty much the same type of kid here at American.
Yeah. Exactly. That's another thing that attracted me here, is a great education, private school, with a lot to offer academically. The difference is, probably the biggest difference is that, well, there's 2, one positive, one negative. The biggest positive difference is that the admissions process here is, it's more, we can tell a kid, and we can know much more sooner. We can assure a kid that he's going to get admitted, assuming he does X, Y, and Z, or finishes strong or whatever. At Stanford, we couldn't. We didn't have control over that. So you're recruiting kids, you find some kids and you think they're in range and you vet them through admissions, but you can still get denied. You're at the mercy of the admissions office, and rightfully so. But here, there's just more of a guarantee, right? You go after some of these high academic, high achieving student athletes, you see their transcripts, you can say, okay, you hit these benchmarks, we can get you into school, and you can tell a kid up front early in the process. At Stanford, there was never ever telling a kid early in the process. You literally had to wait until he got his decision from admissions, and you never knew when that exactly was going to be, and it just made it a lot harder. Probably the negative is that we're going to have to work a lot harder to sell our vision, the plan for the program, and just AU in general, because we're around so many other great schools. On Stanford, we were kind of like the only show in the West, right, of higher academics. So it's easier to get kids excited. Stanford had a bigger brand name recognition, so naturally kids just were more attracted to the school. Not that they aren't here, but we have to just work a little bit harder to really show them what we have, right? And people just know of Stanford here. We've got to get kids to campus, and they need to see it. That's one of the things that sold me, is like seeing campus. It's pretty, it's nice, and the academic setting is awesome, and you're so close to so many opportunities, and there's so much going on. But we got to get kids here. I felt like at Stanford we didn't always have to get them there, but if we did get them there, I knew we would get them. And so there's pros and cons at both places.
Yeah, I was going to talk about the campus just because, if you don't know any better, you hear Washington, D.C., capital city, you don't know what to expect. But, I mean, you wouldn't know when you're on campus that you're in the middle of D.C. and, you go a couple blocks off campus and you just have some remarkable housing, beautiful areas. So it's a good location.
No doubt. I'm glad you brought that up, because I tell people that. Exactly that. You think DC, you think you're going to the city, you're going to, fast-paced, a little bit chaos and traffic everywhere, but that's not the case. We're kind of on the outskirts of the DC, scene, and more in a residential area where there's these big, beautiful, like colonial homes, and just it's awesome. And campus, it feels quaint, and you see trees, and there's clear separation between things, and we're not in it's not like we're in the city where all you see are buildings and sidewalks and street lights. It's way different than that, and that's what I meant about we got to get kids on campus, because when you get them here, it's probably totally different. I think the small town rural kid probably thinks, well, I can't go to DC and go to America, and I'm gonna be like a Beverly Hillbilly, going from middle of nowhere to the big city. But it's not that. There's the river and streams, and rolling hills and foothills, and little there's hiking trails, and there's all kinds of stuff around here to do outside, and that's actually what I love about it.
And one of the things you also mentioned was kind of the competition from other schools on the East Coast. I'm pretty excited about the direction of the conference. I mean, you have Lehigh and Cornell that have been doing it for a long time. Princeton's emerged, National Power, some of the other Ivy League schools, they're stepping up their game. And then you have you with new blood, new staff at American. It's really going to be a fun time to be an EIWA fan.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you're right. You nailed it. Strong conference and a lot of great teams, and we've got our work cut out for us, and I like that, and we're going to need to hustle to catch some of those teams. The history of schools like Cornell and Lehigh, teams you mentioned, and Navy's on the upswing, and there's just tons of great programs. Princeton, and so you're right. It's a good conference. I mean, 17 teams in the conference, and strong, healthy, and a lot of great coaches. So we've got to get going.
For sure. One of the things we talked about before we started rolling was rankings. And this is just kind of a general question. As someone, I'm going to be doing college rankings. And we saw, I'm pretty much doing things black and white. Win, loss, you don't take much into consideration, not much of a gray area. But I feel like this upcoming year, there's going to be a lot of shake-up, turnover going, because maybe wrestler A had kind of a normal training situation all year. Wrestler B had interrupted, maybe 50% of what he could have had as far as training goes. But I feel like we're going to see that at least in the early going with, rankings and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah, no doubt. I'm glad I'm not in your situation because you guys will catch the heat for it. But you're right. I mean, I think some guys had great postseasons because their training environment probably was really good, and generally, how you finished last year, for the most part, kind of dictates how the rankings start the next year. So there'll be a lot of guys that maybe had good training environment and benefited from that and had great postseasons this past year, but they might start slower, this year because everyone is now training on the same schedule, and catching up. So who knows, right? I don't know, but I'm excited to have. I'm excited to get back to a normal year of college wrestling.
Sure, I think everybody is. All right, changing gears big time. Are milkshakes desserts?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
I was told that in college you were part of a video game marathon or something like that.
Oh gosh, I'd love to know who you talked to. Yeah, so funny. Well, it's still up for debate. Although I'm confident that I won. But one of my good buddies, not a wrestler, not a teammate, but a good friend of mine who was also at Central Michigan. Him and then one of my best friends who was a teammate, Jason Mester. We just got this wild idea that we would see how long we could play video games straight with no breaks, which is harder than it sounds. So I made it 43 hours straight, and I looked over and saw my other buddy, he cashed out way early, and we caught him sleeping, and then he just was like, fine, I'm out. But then Jason Mester I looked over and he was kind of out, and so I woke him up and told him I won. Then he started arguing and said he saw me go out, and that's why he fell asleep. And so it's a big debate. But all I know is I made it 43 hours, and I only played 2 video games. I was playing Madden football and Tiger Woods golf, and it was a fun time. We had lots of quirky challenges like that, including cereal eating contests and just wild things. But I played 43 hours straight of video games. I know it's wild, but I'll tell you what. I'm glad I didn't do permanent damage to my eyes, because when I fell asleep and woke up, I think I skipped an entire day. I slept so long, and then I had to go to class. And I remember it was in an accounting class, and I was sitting and trying to focus on the projector. He had a bunch of stuff up there, and the projector was just shaking like the whole time, and I couldn't get my eyes to focus. And I thought that I'd messed my eyes up permanently, but over time I finally got my vision back, so I was good.
That's incredible. I know I logged some time with Madden and Tiger Woods then too. So, and last thing, I've talked to a lot of coaches that have coached their sons and talked about that dynamic. How was it on your end wrestling for your dad, legendary Coach Tom at Central Michigan, while you were in college?
Yeah, I mean, I get to ask that question a lot, and it was great. I had a great experience. I would do it all over again for sure. Maybe if I was able to do it again, my perspective would be different. In that, I think it was challenging in the first few years because I had a hard time separating he was my dad and coach, and in that when we were in the room, he was trying to be my coach and he was being hard on me. I think sometimes I took it more personal and thought that he was doing it because he was like my dad. I remember early in my career, I felt like not until like my senior year, when I really just was like, he's my coach, did I start having it prosper. Really, I felt like my wrestling kind of took off to a better level, and I don't know if that's what it was for or related to or not, but I just felt like maybe when I was young, drawing that clear distinction between coach and dad was harder for me. But I think he was always really good at it. I just couldn't see it or feel it. I don't know. Whatever. I think that's the only thing that I think about. But other than that, the experience was great. We had great teams. I have awesome memories. Some of my best friends are from those college days, and just it was all around awesome. We had some awesome experiences together, and some awesome victories. A lot of great wins and some good NCAA tournament runs, and so it was a lot of fun.
All right, Coach, that's all I have for you. Is there anything else that you want to talk about, mention as far as American University Wrestling goes, or yourself in general?
No, it's super excited to be here, to have this new challenge, to try to elevate the program to greater heights. I'm super grateful for our alumni support and administrative support, but I'm also tremendously grateful for the foundation that's been laid here. We've a rich history. People don't always think about that, but we've had an NCAA champion here, and Josh Glenn, and multiple other All-Americans, and great finishes at the NCAA tournament. Had some great coaches, Mark Cody, Teague Moore, Bob Karch, all the way back into the 70s, and just a rich tradition. And I'm really excited to build on that and see where we can go, and if we can get to even a higher level.
All right, thanks a lot, Coach.